Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Saturday Night Later, the show where sketch teachers and writers break down SNL sketches so we can learn about the structure that goes into writing sketch comedy. I'm your host, Marina Tempelsman, the writer of the upcoming book, Unusual Things, a guide to sketch comedy for writers, fans, and everyone else. And I'm joined by my amazing co-host and author of the Substack, My Comedy Fantasy, Madalyn Baldanzi. Hello, Madalyn.
Hi, Marina.
Hi. And I'm very excited that we have a very special guest today. He is a writer, a musician, a podcaster. You've seen his work on Adult Swim, IFC, MTV, Above Average, the UCB, and once on SNL's Weekend Update, which he wrote a beautiful essay about on his Substack, which I am very eager to get into as well. Welcome, Geoff Garlock. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
I am so pumped to talk about this episode. This was one where, like, sometimes before I start to watch, I'll, like, put up a little Instagram story saying, like, you know, what were your takeaways or whatever on this episode? And they'll kind of, like, come in over the course of the day as I, go about my day before I sit down to watch it. And the time I finally sat down, I had gotten messages that were like, is this the death of SNL? Or like, is this where SNL changes forever? Like, blah, blah, blah. I was like,
Saturday Night Dead for the first time.
I was genuinely like, what happened in this show? And I think that I can definitely see where there are some things about this episode that feel a little bit different from what one typically expects from SNL, but also there are ways where it's exactly aligned with what it can often do, especially with Ryan Gosling specifically. Question, Ryan Gosling or Ryan Gosling? Because like a Gosling, I feel like crazy saying Gosling because that's like...
I think it's Gosling.
It is just Gosling? Okay, cool, great, perfect.
What's Ryan Gosling? Wait, hold on, what did I start saying? Ryan Gosling. I guess I put S.
It's like more of a hit. It's like anyway, I feel like whatever. We all know who we're talking about. So anyway, but I'm very excited to talk about this one. I think that before I take your guys' temperature on this episode, I think one of the things that really stood out to me in this one was the difference that can exist between funny and fun. And I think it'll be really interesting to talk about and think about when fun is enough versus when you need to be funny versus, and all of those things. I think there's some interesting kind of gnarly stuff in there that has a lot to do with sketch and the different types of venues and places you might perform that, anywhere from an underground basement theater in front of 1 to 3 people to Saturday Night Live in front of millions of people, and how all of those things invite different sort of demands for what kind of show you put on. Anyway, all of that said, I would love to hear what you guys think, like a quick temperature check on this episode before we jump into the specific sketches. How are we kind of generally feeling about it?
Do you want to start?
You start, Geoff. You start.
Look, I'm going to start by saying I truly love Ryan Gosling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Madalyn might have dealt with this before me. I have a weird love affair with him. The Nice Guys is truly one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a comfort watch.
Mm-hmm.
And I love him on SNL. And I thought generally it was a fine SNL episode.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like, it was, it had all of the benchmarks and hallmarks of what can be the frustrating part of this show as a fan and a watcher. And I'll get into, I'm sure on my end, hoping I don't sound like an old man, but like my current problems with the way the writing specifically is now in the past couple years on SNL. Because I do think there's been a shift that I don't love.
Yeah.
And I'm not convinced people do love it, but that's just my take.
Yeah. Totally legit. Yeah, Madalyn, how about you? What stood out to you?
I would watch Ryan Gosling do anything.
Yeah.
So I feel like I got to the end of it and I was like, that was pretty fun. And I turned to my partner and he was like, was it? And I think when I thought back on it, I was like, oh yeah, none of these sketches really were that good, but there were fun moments.
I agree there were fun moments. I was sort of just, I think again, given how big people's feelings seem to be towards this episode, I was sort of surprised by like, oh, I feel like, but on the whole, it sort of felt like a pretty standard, like
average
episode to me with its strengths and weaknesses. But all of this, but in the same way that I think maybe what I'm just learning every week is that it's always a great episode to learn from if you're learning how to write sketch, because there's always going to be things that work and things that don't. And we'll learn so much from going through one sketch at a time.
I don't think there was a great sketch this week.
I
is the
agree.
difference. And nor was there one last week either.
Yes. I
I
think
thought
that's
there was one great commercial parody, and I'll get into it. But other than that, it was the only Garlock sketch in the whole night. And the rest of it, yeah. I
Okay.
don't think there was a great sketch.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Slightly below average to me. So I was also
Yeah.
surprised when you told me there was polarizing opinion.
Oh my gosh, sidebars all bound. Yeah, exactly. It was really wild. But let's go ahead and jump into the specific sketches. Starting with the cold open. So this is Pete Hegseth Pete Hegseth giving a press conference about Iran. So let's talk about this one. What stood out to you guys about this one? I feel like at this point, my main takeaway for this was that, okay, they have a clear character game for Pete Hegseth. I think I was a little just kind of bored of it, just because they've sort of now done this a number of times, and the specifics didn't feel like they popped quite hard enough. Yeah, Madalyn, what were you thinking?
Is it clear though? This to me was like so I tried to write down every beat of this sketch to just be like, why do I hate this so much?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's a clear Hegseth. I think he's got a clear performance and he's swimming around bro, but it keeps going there's like Papa Roach reference my high school girlfriend, which I had. The Lord says what? So there's kind of like high school bro douche, but then there's also like guy who wants offensive things to be fine again, like guy who thinks Family Guy is funny. Like it's dancing around almost like too many bad guy stereotypes.
Yeah.
I think they actually don't have it tweaked enough.
That's interesting. Yeah. Jeff, what were you thinking? You sound like you agree. Yeah.
I've written down the two main unclear character choices were either young bully child or college frat character going into tech bro. But like it was kind of a little bit of like, again, how this show works a little bit now. Like it's like what works for the joke, they switch it around. Like, and I will say too, like for me, like it's you two knowing me, it's probably not a shock that like the political cold open is who cares most of the time. Like it's the reminder that this is a variety show sometimes first versus a sketch show. Like, and it's just like supposed to just be like, here's a bunch of stuff you kind of remember from this week. But the lack of game was frustrating because I was just like, just pick a lane and go for it.
I think I'm very persuaded by what you guys have said. I think that like I was sort of seeing it as under the umbrella of bro, but I think you're right that really is not quite specific enough. And I think
there's so many flavors of bro.
So many flavors. Yeah. There's nuance,
Yeah, there really is. Like it's like once the Papa Roach joke was separate from like some of the like the anti-woke joke.
Right.
Like sort of thing. And it's just like, but then it defeats I know in theory they say they're, bipartisan, it's not political, but it defeats the purpose of whatever they're trying to say by just like, we also just like this joke, so we're going to find a way to do it.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I think that also the thing that I've been frustrated by is when the character is sort of making a joke in the world of the sketch. Sort of, there's something about that I find a little tiresome. For me, my main response to this was just that it felt very not tight to me. Like it felt like, and I thought that was sort of surprising. Or sorry, not surprising because they've been a little bit loosey-goosey the cold opens, but I do think that a press conference is a setup for a very clean sketch, potentially. Like you can really, really tighten around a press conference setup. And so I think that to have a press conference setup that also felt kind of meandering was sort of like, it feels simultaneously very structured and very floppy in a way that I was like, I'm pretty bored by now.
This conference as a sketch teacher is like a perfect example for like, you don't have to work too hard on your first half of a page.
Yeah.
Like we know what this is. Now it's just how you want to play. And then you're just like, well, what am I watching then if I can't have that focus?
Totally. I think that this was the first of a couple of sketches tonight that I think would also have benefited from just getting like a little punchy, being like punched up a little bit more, basically. Because I think that I think that you guys also really identified a problem and why it felt a little meandering to me, that it was kind of going zigzagging back and forth to hit the jokes that it wanted to hit without being like more specific in the character. But yeah, I think that a lot of it felt very referencey and not very like concrete to me. Yeah, and I think again, I wonder if they'll become more specific, or if really part of the game as they see it is just seeing Colin Jost act like this too. Like, there's a part of me that wonders if there's like, which is also going to be a recurring theme in this episode of like the sort of meta watching the cast of it all. All right, should we move on to the monologue?
Can I just ask, what was the female joke in that? Because I wrote that there was a groan at a joke about females, and I appreciate that the audience was like, no.
There was boots on the ground, your mom's boots
maybe.
are dead. But that I thought was an okay joke.
Yeah. There was some joke towards the end that clearly the audience wasn't on board. And there were a couple times the audience groaned, which I was like, ooh, cool. I like that.
Yeah.
When they said, should people be afraid? Yes, the audience was silent. That was way too scary.
Yeah. No, I think we've said it before, but the audience is a real character in this season of SNL.
Yeah.
All right, shall we move on to the monologue? Okay, great. I have to say, I kind of loved this monologue. So much fun.
Yes.
It was so specific.
So nice and specific. So yeah, how would you like define what the game of this monologue was?
Harry Styles pulls focus.
Yeah, great.
No
right?
matter how stupid and ridiculous you doing an SNL monologue is going to be, it's still going to be Harry Styles.
Yeah.
Even when it's Ryan Gosling, the most charming person that has ever existed.
Yeah. And like feeling shown up by Harry Styles' presence, I thought was really, really fun. And I loved like the heightening of like, oh, wait, now I'm going to be singing Harry Styles' song in front of Harry Styles. I hate this. That was really delightful. The editing was really great. I thought this was a really beautifully produced sketch, in addition to just being a really fun premise. The writing I thought was really tight. Could you listen less cool? Like, your coolness is becoming an issue. Great, super specific, super concrete. And yeah, I just thought it was really delightful. My doorbell is ringing and I am the only person here, so hang on for one moment.
Of course.
Yes. I mean, Geoff and I can opine about how fun this was. The split screen joke.
I wrote that. I was like, Gorilla Split Screen was like such a like. He's good at delivering jokes. I mean, Ryan Gosling is like. Unfortunately, I feel like he walked so Glenn Powell could run, and I don't care about Glenn Powell at all as a human. Just like Glenn Powell could not exist, and I would feel better about life. Because I'm like, you're not good looking enough, and you're not funny enough, and you're not charming enough. Gosling is
talking about me?
Madalyn walks, so Marina can run.
History will be kinder to Ryan Gosling than Glenn.
I hope so.
Interesting. Okay.
But one thing I really loved that you could take away from this one was like Ryan Gosling is promoting the Andy Weir book movie, and the Earth thing was such a good, like, we're gonna play the normal scene to get distracted from it when the scene is SNL monologue.
Yeah.
Like, it was almost a little bit of a meta playing what the scene is.
Yes.
But it was perfect because it was just, like, weird and wacky and specific enough that it, like, felt very real, but then it didn't matter. And then there was those great alien costumes were such a funny like way to heighten that and have it not matter was so funny.
It was so funny. Just the idea that like this would be like all of it just like feeling cheesier and cheesier too by comparison to Harry Styles being there. It was just like beautifully executed.
It was like a full monologue version of when they show the llama backstage, when they do a walk backstage, and you're just like, oh, what was that going to be like? I will say my one pain in the butt with it was, and this carries to the rest of the episode and my feelings in general, Mikey Day kissing him. I just wrote boo. Like, I mean, I just like distracting focus, like deciding to do stuff that is antithetical to what's going on screen. That's like his whole MO, and it drives.
Mm.
I spend maybe too long talking to our good friend Eric Cunningham about breaking down the career of Mikey Day.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
yeah, it's a little
It was also the
frustrating.
first break of the show.
Yeah,
In a
which who knew that would be the theme?
Yeah,
I
that
guess.
I didn't see it coming.
That truly
Yeah.
was the theme. Yeah, it was really, it was I thought a really strong monologue though, like a really
Yeah.
fun, like it was
Love
fun,
it.
it was endearing, and just it felt fun and silly and cheeky, and I think, was also great for teasing Harry Styles next week, because it really is just like I think he's a very good team player on SNL in general, and just truly did exactly the right amount with this. So that was really,
Yeah.
really awesome. I thought that was a great monologue. Um, should we move to the first sketch of the night? This is the wedding tradition sketch. This one I thought was a really interesting one. Like I think this is one where I would be excited if somebody brought it into a sketch 101 class. I thought there was something really fun at the core of it. Almost immediately, I was like, "This sketch is probably gonna have a heightening problem," and I think that it, in fact, did have a heightening
Yeah.
problem. I almost don't see how it could not have had a heightening problem, but let's chat about this one a little bit. What jumped out to you about this sketch, and, what do you think students can learn from watching this one?
To me, this is like an example of where often the writing has gone in the past couple of years. It maybe drives me up a wall, and I wonder if it's like I often, again, with my friend with Cunningham, trying to figure out the roots of it. But like the uh the desire and kind of like throwing in random stuff and side jokes to a weak premise
Mm,
happens almost always to
mhm.
me. And it like just ends up more putting a spotlight on like if you had just focused on the main idea and saw where else you could go with it, like the Claudette joke right away. I was like, okay, cool. That's what the game's going to be. Like, I hope the audience is on board. And then it's like,
No.
no, you started with this like kind of depressing
Yeah,
like joke that gets more depressing. And the leukemia part actually had the reaction that I would imagine.
right.
Like, uh, it reminded me of one time I was doing a stage show and Jim Santangeli was playing Prince. It was confusing why, but he was supposed to also be that he was taking over the body of Dennis Quaid, who had died a bunch of years ago. And we had never written in. He goes, and he died of cancer. Like it was, and you could hear the audience go, "Oh no!" Like, and then you saw Santangelo go, "I don't know, I blew it." Uh,
Oh, no.
that was not happening here. Like, I just like once you got to Gosling, you're like, okay, that's what this is going to be. You're
And
just
he was
going to do the same
so
thing.
aggressively silly. Like
Yeah,
this sketch I thought was interesting the way first of all, that game did not come out on the first page. And
no,
that's why we are asking everyone to get the game out on the first page. But there's a way where the character he played could have been less specific. Like you
Mhm.
could almost imagine like Chloe Feynman playing the unusual person here and being like, "Oh, let's make them kiss a lot," like, just kind of more broad, and I think
yeah,
Ryan Gosling was playing a very specific weirdo, like, with the
Right.
outfit and the tail and
Yeah,
the I did enjoy that he was there because, he'd hit the groom had hit him with his car, like,
yeah,
that could be a place to heighten, so I was almost like, "This is, like, a boring premise with a really specific Ryan Gosling guy." I was like, "I don't know how
right.
this sketch came to be."
I
And
feel
normally I
like
can figure it out, but,
yeah,
it was almost like they ignored how specific Gosling could have been and didn't heighten that at all.
right. I feel like the idea of my thought of, like, what probably the origin was like is, like, somebody who was, like, delighted and surprised to learn of this tradition at a wedding, and then the idea of, like, a person who's, like, a little drunk on their own power of being able to do this was, like, maybe a little bit of what was sort of, like, being moved towards, but then, like, I think, again, some of the silliness became unspecific. I
Gosling
think
like,
that
maybe if it was even just, like, an aunt who was doing that, that might have been an easier
I
sell.
I still think it could
yeah,
have been that character, this is so rare for me to say this, but I actually think this could have used a little bit more of an I think you should leave treatment, where like thinking about it as who is the kind of person who would feel drunk on power at this, and then what else would
Yeah.
they do? And it would have just been tied together by who that character is, and not necessarily like what they look like or anything like with a silly, outfit and the hair or whatever. But it would have felt much more specific in the way that I think you should leave sketches feel somehow specific, even though they're quite sprawling too. Um,
Yeah.
I think that to me, this one was just it was sort of it felt a little bit like a little clunky. Like it did felt like it sort of wasn't. I think the reason I think of it as a 101 sketch is it didn't quite feel confident enough.
Yeah.
Confident. I mean confident, not competent. Like confident enough to like really proceed with the thing that felt like the most fun. And so instead there was it was very little of the thing that was fun, and it kept on dipping teeny little ways back to it. But then like pulling in these other things, a sub game about Claudette, like all of that, which felt just not as juicy, I think.
That's why I feel like the side jokes happen often. Like there's a lack of confidence in the sketches in the past couple of years. Like and it's like combined with I think it did make them laugh at the table.
Yeah.
These side jokes, but like it ends up and like it was like what if this was I think you should leave sketch or a Forte John Solomon sketch. Like it's 100% that, but where would they have got like when honestly they got to the brother and sister kissing, I was like, that could have been like a second beat. Like that's like starts, and then Will Ferrell shows up and he's the guest because it's SNL and they could do that. And he's another weirdo in the same outfit. Like, but some Forte like keep building versus it was just like repetition, and then you'd have like Claudette. And was that also where the person got hit, or am I that another sketch where they got distracted by a side joke? I think that was later in the show because they just keep doing that. There's just like the energy doesn't go into what the joke is itself. And I liked the bad justification too.
Yeah, the joke, but that was the thing that was so bizarre. It was only 3 minutes in that we got that justification. And I was like, if we hoisted that justification to like bottom of page 1 and we learn that that's their relationship, we can have so much more fun with who that character is. Like this is really like this is really like important for your sketches with unusual characters, because just kiss and is just not enough of a behavior to.
I think as a teacher, I would sometimes suggest you can do a late justification that's really dumb, but then I realized that it would be like, maybe it's only Old Prospector sketch that I think that ever worked completely, where it's like Will Ferrell just doing it for a long time because he's funny. And then they're like, yeah, that's Gus Chiggins, the character actor from the Apple Dumpling Gang. And he's also Donald Rumsfeld's cousin. And you're like, okay, sure. Like, but we've got Will Ferrell going through with specifics, and like there weren't enough specifics. And Ryan is charming, but not enough jokes, really. Yeah. I wanted heightening.
Yeah, and there just couldn't be. The pacing was slow. I think it couldn't have not been slow because there just wasn't.
I think a good counterpoint sketch, if anyone wants to get really nerdy, is the Kate McKinnon kiss sketch.
Sure.
Where she's an old woman, right? Who just like wants to see people kiss. And it's a very small game like this, but her character was so specific and so funny that it worked really well. So
okay, yeah. There's a few counterpart sketches that I think would be good to flag for people as we go. So I really like hearing that. That maybe we should we'll add those into the comments too to make sure people can see variations of ideas that sometimes come out a little bit better. But yeah, this one I think was there was something fun here. I think it just wasn't super well executed. But again, a lot to learn from. And I think a lot of what to learn from as a student is the importance of like some restraint in how, like, in what you're kind of throwing onto the stage for your audience. Like, think really about like the part that's funny to you and like how can you explore that and like blow that up. Okay, let's talk about the next sketch. Yeah, this was the commercial parody, the O Tesla.
Tesla.
So yeah, let's talk. Geoff, was this the one that you really loved? Or
I loved it.
Great.
Actually, I was like, is this the sketch I've liked the best in years from SNL?
Right.
Like, maybe. I mean, I was just like, yeah, a plaque psoriasis commercial that goes like way too far but is kind of clear and the specifics are good. And eventually a scientist goes crazy and shoots himself. Like, that's a Garlock sketch. I
Yeah.
love that stuff.
How about you, Madalyn? What were your thoughts on
Yeah,
this
I
one?
agree this was the best one of the night. Something about it felt like a little rote to me, or it didn't
Mhm.
heighten enough somehow, although I
Mhm.
don't have any great ideas for how to do that. Maybe it could have just been a little shorter.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
long.
I thought the plaque psoriasis Skyrizi is, like, so specific that it worked well for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I I liked this one a lot. I had a couple of notes for this one. I think that I think that the specifics were fantastic. I thought they were really fun. I do think when it began, I was like, "Oh, this is one of those like, but it's not this, but what is it?" I found and at first I was like, "Okay, this is gonna get old," but it was more specific than that. It was about like the sort of like mysterious entity that is Otezla, right? I think my main notes for this one were I found it heightened in words, right? Like there was a lot of word heightening without like sort of tonal heightening in other ways, I think. Like in and so I think that I would probably have figured out if there are ways to either cut down the sketch a little bit more so it's faster or maybe figure out ways for like the tone of the sketch to become more like eerie or to like enact some of the like eeriness of what's going on a little bit more versus like the continued chipper talking. Some of it I found a little hard to follow, I think because it was so talky so quick. But again, maybe I'm just learning that my hearing's not that good anymore. Because I feel like this is not the first time I felt that way about a sketch. Um,
Subtitles out all the time. Just leave them be. Like,
the
yeah.
subtitles are like they are always on, but, like, I find that the subtitles are very bad for SNL.
Oh, yeah.
It's really, like, I'm so fascinated by this, but
It's like
anyway.
watching Taskmaster on YouTube. I don't know
Yeah.
what's going on half the time.
Well, like, I thought it was really interesting that at the very end of the sketch, you hear they say, like, "Oh, Tesla, what do you mean it's taken?" And I was like, "Oh, that's so interesting that they're putting the inspiration for the sketch as the tagline at the end of it." 'Cause
Oh, I didn't even understand that until I wrote that down. I was like, "I don't understand what this means."
yes,
Okay.
there I think are quotes around "it's taken" and then question mark. Yes, but that's exactly the kind of thing I mean, where it's like it took a little bit of like that's the kind of thing. So maybe it wasn't a hearing thing. Maybe it really was just like some of like the literally some of the words I found a little hard to wrap my head around as it was going. The other note that I was going to give is I sort of think some of the stuff about we don't know what it looks like maybe got in the way of some of the fun of like we don't know what it wants, we don't know what happens when we do this, like we don't know, like maybe it we think it eats plaque psoriasis, we think that's its food source. I think that if they had simplified some of that stuff at the beginning, um and just like I made it a pill or whatever, and like not had the joke where you turn around and it turns into something else. I think that would have simplified it because or sorry, and by simplified I mean I think that would have made it cleaner and um maybe a little zippier. Um but yeah, that was sort of my only real note for it. It was really fun. I again thought the specifics were great.
If anyone had recently watched Pluribus, they were really confused that it wasn't a Pluribus sketch
Oh, really?
for a lot of it.
That's
But
really
that is not SNL's problem.
no. No, but
Here's a question I have for both of you off of that as sketch teachers. Because I was watching it and I was like, it doesn't exactly fall in it, but like I feel like for years I would teach the like rote rule
mhm.
of, well, you shouldn't tell the audience why it's a bad thing in the commercial. Like, and now as I've gotten older, like, and writing more, and like, like for my podcast, I write hundreds of commercials. I'm just like, I don't care. I know the rule exists for 101 students who want to like sell out things immediately. But like I've realized like I'm not sure I care that much about
I
that rule
I
anymore.
think it's okay to have a commercial parody that feels kind of peas in a pod or that feels
Yeah.
voice of reasoning. And as a comparison point, I think like Almost Pizza, I think is a great comparison point for this sketch because Almost
Hmm.
Pizza is also a sketch where it's like, we don't know what this thing is, but there is a character who's like, wait, no, tell me what is this thing? And I think that the structure of the sketch continually like playing the music and seeming sort of like upbeat in the commercial way. So the sketch structure is the voice of reason. Sorry, the commercial structure is the voice of reason, so whether
Right.
you have a character who's aligned with it or not. Like, I think it sort of is a little bit moot as long as the points of view are clear. I thought the points of view were all very clear among the characters here.
Yeah.
What do you think, Madalyn?
I think it's usually better if they're being positive about the product. I think you can almost always do a rewrite where it's better that way. But I love rules, so
I mean, that's the thing. I do love rules too, but I think as I've gone on, I've maybe just getting less and knowing that like at one point we almost like got rid of the commercial parody class, like at UCB. Like there was a certain faction who were just like, "Oh, we don't even need to do it. Commercials aren't a thing anymore." And I was like, "That's crazy," but I think it's just like, yeah, I've just realized, like, because also I don't actually, I think that sketch still was they like part of the fun was them hiding the fear they had. Like part of the fun of
I
that
think
sketch was like,
this sketch only said good things about the product, though. Like,
Yeah.
I'm realizing too, like that,
yeah,
yes, but it's
this
like,
one followed the rule to me,
right.
Yeah.
and I do think Frank is mentioning Totino's in the comments, and I think Totino's does follow the rules except for the very end, like it mostly
Which is when you can give up the rule is at the end. I mean, I'm saying this of knowing that I probably have more examples of like it following these rules we've come up with, but I've maybe have gotten a little laxer on like that.
There's certainly ideas that are good the other way. But.
Yeah, and I think Almost Pizza is a great example of like one that works really well with a voice of reason pushing back. I think that often the reason you don't want to is that especially in a 101 class when you're just starting, you can get really bogged down and suddenly it becoming a scene and that slows down when commercial parodies really ideally what you just want to do when you're learning is like learn how to absorb the structure and zip through it with your fun idea like painted across that structure. And I think that when you start introducing a voice of reason, when you're first learning, it's sort of like too many variables. So yeah, I think that's why. But yeah, I think it can go either way.
Yeah. I mean, also, you're making secondary jokes, and what are you, an SNL sketch?
Yeah,
like ruining ideas. Sheesh.
All right, should we go on to the next sketch? This is the Cyclops one. Okay, so yeah, let's chat about this one. I think this is also, I mean, all of them, I think you have a lot to like, you can learn a lot from each of these and like things have strengths and weaknesses. This was an odd one, I thought, with some fun elements to it. So pretty standard. What jumped out to you guys about this one?
It feels like a table read sketch. Like it feels like if this was on Mod or you're doing a sketch show, that maybe like it's like, something I would warn about, especially if I'm directing. Of just like, do we all just think it's funny here? Like, because the game is just, they're dumb. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, and it was the same thing. And they seem to love it.
Yeah.
They seem to love doing it.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, is there just enjoy? And I don't have enough connection to the current cast to enjoy them just enjoying themselves. Like there are years that it would be that way, but for me personally, I'm just like, all right, I'm waiting this out, like for it to be over.
Okay, first of all, dumb Cyclops is not enough, right? Because things are dumb, so it's not unusual. So you can't have dumb blank as the joke. They were getting to something with the two forest nymphs. What were they?
Let's say they're forest.
I like forest nymphs.
With the two forest nymphs, like that's funny to be like, okay, we've been here for 1,000 years and you guys show up? Are you freaking kidding me? That's a game.
Good.
That's a game. They had it. They had it, and they still could have done their stupid, dumb, fun Cyclops if the like situation had kind of been a little bit more unusual. Like there's something there. And then I think this is also an example of something where like it is a genre sketch, but it wasn't anything really recognizable and there were no tropes they were playing off of, and so it just felt bananas.
Yes.
The weirdest reference point is they looked like Liam Neeson in Krull, which is not a movie anyone should be referencing. And I was just like, oh, okay.
I think that for me, I I had to actually go back after finishing it to be like, wait, let me just make sure I got the setup right. Because it was like the three Cyclops, after getting through the physical hurdles or obstacles, have now gone to the riddle. And I was like, okay, in this type of tale, I associate the Cyclops as being one of the things that the hero gets past to then get to the riddle. So this is sort of not how I associate Cyclops working. I talked to Nico about it, and Nico was saying that there is, like, in the Odyssey, that they have to trick the Cyclops but like I still
But
think even
they're
then,
giving the
Yeah.
Cyclops a riddle. Like, that's
yeah,
not.
I think that this is I'm sort of like, why I feel like they could have just stripped the Cyclops of it all, and I kind of wonder if the reason they had it be Cyclops so that it didn't feel like it was like
Three dumb
it's that
guys.
there's like three dumb guys or like some sort of like I don't know, like something else that they were worried about it feeling like icky to watch or something like that. Because I really don't know why it wouldn't have just you couldn't have just made it more specifically like I guess like three heroic guys who are just really strong but really not smart. I don't know. It
Yeah.
feels like there's a way where that would have been cleaner at the top at least.
It could have also just been like, there's a protocol to this fantasy moment that we have to follow, and
Mhm.
these creatures won't stand on their spots while we talk. Like, that could have been the game. Because go back. Like,
Yeah.
Ali Padilla doing that was funny. You could just, like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can build it. There's no
Right.
trope. You can make the game anything, and they made it nothing.
Right, like, the nymphs having to discipline the people answering the riddle, but, like, in a that was fun, and I think it was but I wonder if it was fun in this just because the other parts weren't working as well, and so it was all breaking a little
Possibly.
bit?
I mean, I could have been missing it, but like I would say, as someone who has a deep bench of dumb, obscure references that nobody knows why I'm writing about them. Like it felt like I was like watching. I'm like, okay, this is maybe like the movie Excalibur, and then I mentioned Krull, and then maybe the Odyssey, and then Lord of the Rings because they said Balsag instead of Balrog, so that was driving me nuts. But, like, I don't need to know what you're referencing as long as they are
Right,
specific in what they're doing, which is a basic thing we teach. I think, like where we're doing a
right,
parody, and I agree with you, Madalyn. Like I didn't think about that, but like if the sketch passed the Bechdel test more and had them talk to each other, like they are the most fun part.
right,
That doesn't come till later.
right,
And they're like being like, we're stuck here. We got to deal with it. Like, and like maybe you'd have you're all right. You're taking multiple genres. Have elves show up. Have like,
right,
if that's how you're playing it, sure. Cause it doesn't matter. Like, we don't need to know about these stupid Cyclops.
right. It's
But
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that's why it's also important to step back and ask yourself, like, what about this is actually unusual? Because I think you could say that, like, well, dumb Cyclops is very unusual, but like the playable part of it was just that they are dumb. That it wasn't the Cyclops of it all is sort of just like an unrelated flavor in a way.
right.
So I do think you're right that the nymphs, just call them nymphs, like that was sort of more fun and more interesting.
Well, because
Um,
also, like, you need to base it off of a feeling that is semi-universal that we're working off of. And like, honestly, I'm sitting here going, like, do we have a shared feeling about what Cyclops are? Like, no. Like, each genre plays them different. So it's not like we're sitting here going, like, oh man, Cyclops are so smart. I
right.
can't wait till we see them dumb. Bad Doctor, that's the whole point of Bad Doctor. Like, Doctor's supposed to be smart. Wow, he's being weird and dumb. Like,
Right. Like, I
that's
could
it.
also like, you could also do a version where, like, the Cyclops, who's usually the strength part of the thing to get through, is like, "But I wanna do the riddle this time," you know?
Yeah.
That's, like, a little bit cleaner, I would say, as a way into it. But, yeah, all of it does feel, like, a teeny bit obscure. I will say, at least they just labeled up top, like, what they wanted you to take away from it, but it did
Sure.
feel a little bit like, it sort of felt a little bit like yeah, it sort of felt like they made up something at, like, a 45-degree angle to something that is known, so it felt like I was sort of checking my instincts a little bit as we were
Yeah.
starting, and which was confusing.
Yeah.
Alright, should we move on to the next one?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, Madalyn, I'm gonna ask you to start with this. Could you just put your head in your hands?
Madalyn
Because
has to say, I loved it. It was, this is
yeah.
what I've been waiting for.
God, nothing like suicide is a punchline.
Okay, just to clarify, just to jump in, this is Monty McTreat's famous bakery sketch. So anyway, just yes, now proceed.
I mean, no.
Yeah.
You can't have suicide as a punchline past also the CGI or the AI or whatever it was bad pass. No.
Yeah.
Sorry. I can't even talk about it. I hate it so much.
Yeah. It was funny when it started, I was sort of like, okay, so this is I think that if you've taught sketch for more than 6 months, I think you've probably encountered a number of Willy Wonka parodies. Like, it's just
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that, especially as you're learning sketch. Like, it's sort of like a, whatchamacallit, it's sort of a little bit adjacent to a press conference thing. There's a really clear setup for how it goes, different places, things to see. You've definitely also seen a lot of, like, the Oompa Loompa situation is messed up, right? Like, you've definitely seen a number of versions of that sketch. Um, I think that it was strange that I mean, there were so many things that were strange about it that, like, didn't really feel like they worked. It felt like the pacing was really off. It felt like the for the what do they call it? Duty D's,
Yeah.
I feel like the thing that was starting to became a teeny bit interesting to me was the idea of, like, their culture, like, oh, like, you aren't interested in their culture, this is what they do or something like that, but it felt too adjacent to the sketch premise of, like, their lives are messed up in the factory. So the idea that, like, this is the part of their culture where this happened, it felt like it was really, really tangled to me.
Because they were playing, like, children seeing the dead body hanging because to, like, close the doors. Like,
Yeah.
that was what they were playing for a long time
Yeah.
before they even got to that. Like, you can't do that for that
I mean,
long.
it took a long time to get to that.
So long.
And you're just
So
like,
long.
and it definitely is also one of those SNL sketches that can frustrate some people, including me, where it's like almost like the argument of, like, if we made one less superhero movie, we could make 10 real movies. And I'm like sitting there going, like, you spent this amount of money to, like, get to that joke? Like,
Right.
and the joke is like, yeah, it's like kind of base level. It's just like,
Yeah, it was a little
oh, they kill themselves. They're sad. I don't know. That's about it.
yeah.
Like,
It was really I think it was a little indecisive around how it wanted to approach it. It was like it felt like a kind of stew of the Oompa Loompa situation is messed up, but then, like, it didn't decide how it wanted to proceed through it, like, with in terms of the point of view, because it was like, okay, well, the Willy Wonka character just didn't kn like, he was surprised by it in one way, the people on the tour were surprised in a different way. It just felt like so bizarrely messy for something that has such a clean potential
yeah.
setup. The comparison point that I think would be useful for people to look at, like, big build up to a hard messed up reveal, which I think would have probably been a better comparison point for this, is, as we've talked about before, that Dead Poet Society sketch with the fan. Yes, exactly, right? Like, this is that I think is the kind of shining example of what this should be. I think that a sketch that also missed the mark in a similar way, um, but that was a little stronger than this, but still not great, was that a recent Home Alone sketch that they did, and I think that sketch, like
Yeah.
this sketch, the problem was that it tried to have both the long build up and then a hard reveal, but then it proceeded to try to do a normal sketch structure, which just was like too much. I think just too much around an idea that just was not strong enough. So I think the "Oh Captain, My Captain" sketch is the best version of this type of sketch. Um, and I think this one was just super muddy. I think it was really, really muddy and just, yeah.
Well, it also feels like, like, I feel like if this came in at our class, I would be like, well, why today? Like, even like, why is today the day that it's all falling apart at the factory? Like, can you use that to heighten where it's going to go? Because also in, like, the real world of SNL, like, it has a little bit of, like, that story of when Bill Hader did, like, Vincent Price talk show, and Lauren is like, why today? Like, why are we doing this now? And it is like, why? Why am I watching a Willy Wonka sketch that is
Yeah.
like 2 to 3 minutes feels like of just no joke singing? Like,
Yeah.
like,
I'm very excited that the singing element of it is one that's really I think was also difficult, and an additional difficult piece of the sketch. It was not a part of the sketch, so it just slowed it down. And I something I'm very excited about, which I will mention here, and I'll announce at some other place. But I had a really lovely interview with Rachel Bloom to talk about musical sketch writing for the book, and I think there are so many the ways that she thinks about what goes into a musical sketch and what makes a musical sketch strong and work. It's so thoughtful and really depends on having a core idea. And the music here was just such an afterthought. And it was like, what if there was also a song? You could have just had any sketch just like also have a random song in it without adding to it. Like the song truly had nothing to do with the sketch itself. And I think that if you're going to do a musical sketch, you have to be or a sketch that has music in it, it makes sense to be thoughtful about how that is integrated into it.
Yeah. Music and songs and sketches make me feel claustrophobic. Like,
right.
because I feel trapped, like until I get to what the joke is, or if I realize what it is, I'm like, oh, I have to get through.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
More verses.
Right. You have to know like what purpose it's serving, and you have to make it fun, and you have to make it surprising. And there's a lot of stuff in the sketch that just it was not surprising. It wasn't coming back to something really fun. And it was also just unclear. I think it was just, I think that was really the true crime of this one, was just a lack of clarity. All right, let's move on to the next one, I think. Shall we go a weekend update, pastor update, and
just the one bit?
Just the one little bit. Yeah, it was a short weekend update. Thoughts on pastor update and his band leader?
They've done this before last season. It seemed I boycotted last season, so I missed it. But it seemed like the second time they'd done it. I thought it was a terrific character, but it would be much funnier if I would have rather him drill down into snacks for all 3 beats than get off topic on something else. And it drove me bananas that James Austin Johnson did not get to do a third joke.
It really it's just made it superfluous because there's 2 instead of 3. And I'm like, well, why? We don't need them. It's like Keenan. You can let Keenan do anything. Like, honestly, it could be the worst thing ever. And you're still like, it's kind of fun doing that. He's Keenan. He's going to put his energy. But yeah, he had 2 that the pattern was slightly unclear anyways of what he's bringing. And then, yeah, it was like, I truly was like out loud. Just like, there's no third one?
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Can't fit that in? What are we doing here?
My sketch teacher brain, that was my whole takeaway, was like, why did they do the third one?
Yeah. It feels like the look on his face is like, why did I get a third one? What am I sitting here for?
I really love that second one. If you shake it more than twice, you're playing with it. Is great.
Yeah.
A fabulous.
Those were my 2 favorite jokes in the whole bit.
Yeah. I agree. I thought that this is one that I found fun. And I think I think this is one that kind of like works well in the SNL weekend update with Keenan specific structure. And I thought it was fun. I agree that like the snacks to me, like the idea of like the structure of a sermon but applied to things that sort of feel a little like small or insignificant is really fun, and it's nice to see Keenan do that. But yeah, I think this one they could have stood to be even more specific.
Or got rid of James Austin Johnson. I don't want to take him off of the screen.
It's fun, but yeah, I mean, that was really structurally surprising.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move
Here
on
we go.
to talk about the sketch. This is what you came here for. Okay, the passing note sketch. I am so interested to hear your guys' thoughts on this. This is one that I feel like this was such a divisive sketch. There were people who loved it so much. And there were people who hated it so much. And I think that this is, I think, where it really comes to a head. The question of like fun versus funny versus like where, like who gets to be fun instead of funny? Does fun just automatically become funny in certain contexts? The meta element of this. I will say for the sketch, as we were watching it, I was very confused at first by that little headline that popped up. At first, I was like, oh, is this like a warning because something bad happened? Like, is this a disclaimer?
I rewound it.
Yes, yeah. I did too. Because I was just like, I don't like, oh, I guess they must have like had something in the dress rehearsal that was upsetting or something like that. So maybe I'm watching the dress rehearsal record. I was honestly not sure
It felt like a lawyer move. Like it felt like a lawyer
Yes.
had told them, you need to put this on for something bad that happened, just in
Yeah.
case. Just in
Right.
case.
Right. So then then it became clear, once they started handing the note, and then Ashley has the first break, I think. Wait, sorry, but before that happens, they have this joke about the chode thing, right? Which is, Geoff, getting back to what you were saying of just like how kind of like muddying up the game. I think that this is, I think, the kind of sketch that you just want to have a super clear, super, super, super grounded, like entry point into the sketch. And Jessica, was it the first time this was done in the 51 seasons? That's a great question. I think that this was it. So there's a little bit of there's been some chatter about this too, because there are examples of the actors being being presented with a script that they didn't know, like in Weekend Update, like Colin Jost and Michael Che, like reading jokes that they didn't read ahead of time. The Stefan character, sometimes a specific, having the specific sprung on on Stefan, so those were a surprise.
Yeah.
Wait, there was one more. Oh yeah, the Kristen Wiig, like Fred Armisen thing, where they would sing and kind of make it up as they go. So those are examples of things that were like more improvisational or not improvisational, but like surprises being sprung on the cast. But the idea of it being, this is a little bit different from all of those things because it's kind of being sprung on characters in the world of this scene, versus the Fred Armisen Kristen Wiig thing, where the game of the game of it was them trying to co-create the song in the same way, versus like this almost felt like sort of a prank. And I was also unclear if in the dress rehearsal they knew like these are going to be swapped out with something else, or if the idea was that they thought they were doing one sketch and then the lines were swapped out for a different. So all of that was a little confusing to me.
Do both you think, like, a possibility I thought is that it's a little bit, is one of the reasons they did this because Gosling has done this enough that they know he breaks? Specifically,
that's what I thought.
Walken is on, so you know how you work with Walken. And like clearly he's broken like 5 other times this episode.
That was my thought too. I was like, oh right, Gosling. He was in that Kate McKinnon sketch, the alien abduction, and I was like, oh, what a strange takeaway it would be to say like he always breaks.
Yeah, because I don't think of it as a thing.
How it's right, because I don't think of it that way either. I think that he has been in sketches that are so funny that there's breaking. But I think that's the problem with this sketch, is that it wasn't the game of it ostensibly was watching the actors react to the specifics, instead of the specifics being so funny that they had to kind of deal with them. I will say, I did not hate the sketch. I really didn't. Like, I actually thought it was kind of fun to watch. Geoff, I see you hated it. And I think you are not alone in having hated it. There were strong feelings about this. But like, I think that to me, this one was like a fun enough experience to watch, but not, the specifics I think weren't quite good enough. I think that I think that the joke writing should have been so much stronger, given what the premise was and what they were going for. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I chatted a lot just now. So yeah, what are you guys thinking more about this one?
I appreciate they did it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is its own thing for SNL, treating it that like a different show than any show that's ever existed. I appreciate that maybe they thought they were doing a lesser version of like that Zach Galifianakis sketch where they like did one and then re-edited it and did Terry's house. Like it's like, oh, we can play with the form or something. But my hottest take with it, I don't believe any of them thought it was as funny as they thought they were. Like every note that they got, even my wife, who just knew I was writing notes, she was just like, I don't think they thought that was funny. I think they know they need to play this up. Like for each thing, because like each note wasn't that funny. Like they were all kind of fine. And I can picture, I know Madalyn enough to know what thing will make her fucking go crazy, sort of thing. Like none of it felt like that specific to me, combined with the biting hand thing was another, like, just a side things happening for no particular reason. I really don't trust Mikey Days. Like I didn't think he thought it was funny at all. But he was like faking like you and Christy at one point was like, I can see her turn off her laughing. Like I can see her being like, "Oh, I can't believe this is happening live," and it's not. I'm done. Like, and I never believed it. I never believed that the unique premise actually was happening. Like, and except for Gosling, I think he thinks everything is funny and charming, and I love him again so much. But that was my biggest problem. I think it's a false premise for even a short form improv game
I
on
don't know if I
SNL.
completely agree, but I did start to think, like, I think Ashley Padilla is just having fun standing next to Ryan Gosling.
Right.
Maybe that is it. Maybe that's enough.
They're very funny together.
And they have a lot of scenes together.
Yeah. And they were making each other break a lot. I mean, I think, which I think is a part of it too. I think that there was just, the second lunch, I thought that was fun.
Funny.
And that was also like, I imagine is a really fun, like, that's a fun idea of like having a prop that you don't expect to see. Like,
wait, I'm sorry. Is not standing outside of your gynecologist and saying it can't be the worst one they've ever seen really funny?
That was really
sorry,
fun. No, that was very funny. I thought that was very funny. I thought that the second thing about like the tuck it in and say it happened again, I was like, I feel like there's just a little bit of specificity lacking in that joke, but I
just the idea of being like, I've got the worst one they've ever seen.
Yes, that was very funny.
I looked at my wife to see if I should be laughing, and she was dead.
I thought that was funny. I did think that was funny. That was a good specific. I thought that a lot of the other specifics were much less solid. I do think that in a way, this sketch reminded me a little bit of the show Murderville. Do you remember Murderville on Netflix? It was like they would send an actor into into a space with the idea that they were like solving a crime, and it would be a scene of improvisers basically that they would be trying to collect clues from, and it was hysterically funny. And part of what was so much fun was watching the hapless person like succumb to the scene that they were in, basically. So I think that that's almost like what they were doing. But I think that if you are playing this game, then you could activate it way more than having them read the notes, right? Like if the fun is watching, if the fun that you were trying to have is like watching an actor have to do things that they weren't expecting to do before, like why stop at line reads, right? Like why not make it like, why stop at notes, right? The second lunch is a good example of another variation, but there must be another thing that you could have them do to be surprised by that's still scripted.
It also had a base reality problem. Because the kids knew the notes were to make fun of the teachers, but they weren't acting like that.
Right.
Like right? Like they wanted, like they should have been like, no, don't read it. And like the fact that there was no sort of like throwaway line about like, I know this is probably going to be about me, but I'm legally obligated to read it, and I'm sure it's a gossip about children or something, right? Like that was very distracting to me. Just in terms of like, if you don't care if SNL does this or not, that wasn't well done.
Right. Yeah. No, totally.
I think as a sketch teacher, also just thinking like, how would I note this if someone brought it in as an example of, well, I can do this. Like, and there's a bit that it's like, because again, I'm extra harsh on it. Like, I don't trust it. I don't believe any of them thought this was funny except for Gosling as much as they were doing. But also, that's part of the SNL thing is like, there's a built-in love and faith that the audience has that if you're bringing like even a mod team, that it's like, do you think that the audience is as on board?
Right.
You are with each other.
Yes. This is actually also where I think SNL and college sketch actually have something in common where like in your college sketch group, there's a certain love and familiarity and enjoyment of the people as performers that makes it really different from like, I'm going out to see a show, like it just feels like unprepared or something like that. Or like, why should I enjoy watching this person do this?
On the flip side, I was on a team for a long time with a really funny writer named Colin Elsey. He wrote for The Tonight Show for a long time. And he was always like, his point of view was like, okay, everyone knows they're coming to like sketch night at UCB. but like, let's make it feel special. So
Mhm.
he would often like try to come up with an element that was surprising in his like I remember one time he was like, what if there were bagpipes on stage? What would that be like? And then wrote like a sketch around bagpipes, but it had a game that was like clear and
Mhm.
playable. And I think, like, trying to think about your show that way
Yeah.
is smart, and, like, I think I kind of like SNL's thinking about, like, is there something, like, a little different we could do?
Yeah.
Like, it's not gonna turn into Whose Line Is It anyways? Because
Yeah.
like,
Right.
they're in control of that, and that's not what's gonna happen.
Right.
It didn't turn into all digital shorts, right? Like, so it's
No.
I think it's I'm actually glad they did it because I think you also learn from experimenting like
Yeah.
this, as long as their takeaway isn't just, "This was the best, let's do it
Right.
forever," which
I
might
think
happen, we'll
I
see.
think this is
But I like that I like experimenting, so I enjoyed it.
yeah, I think that this is really just a question to me, this was really just a question of, like, okay, but, like, the specifics, like, what are the actual specifics that are juicy and fun and interesting? And also just, like, making that setup less confusing just 'cause I truly was like, "What happened?" Like, is there some, like, current event thing that happened that relates to passing class notes? I
Yeah.
just don't I have no idea. But anyway, yeah, I
Yeah.
think this is an interesting one. I think if you love
Wait,
it or
Marina,
if you
how
hate
would you have done it? Title card up top?
title card up top, I think I would maybe have done I think I would have either had a title card I hope it I mean, they did have a title card up top. Um, I mean, I might have done this would have been kind of tricky to do, but, like, I think I might have had almost like, maybe even something, like, physically on the set so that it was clear that, like, the actors weren't privy to like, something that, like, the people were clearly not seeing, like, something that felt a little more behind the scenes.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's
Versus,
smart.
like, because there are so many things that begin with a title card, like, that begin with a date or whatever, so I think that it felt like in the world of the sketch at first, and then I was like, "Wait, we're not talking about rehearsal in the world of the sketch because it's not set a rehearsal. Okay, so this is" right? Like, I think that I would have found some sort of practical on-set way to make it clear that this was happening
I think
live.
I would have done a Don Pardo announcement before it.
Yeah,
Like,
that too, I
just
mean
like, the following thing you're gonna see, we don't know if it will work. Like, and
yeah,
I would just say it, like, because like because in my brain that's an SNL way to do it.
right,
Like,
right,
really, the Chiron is like when they would cut to the audience in the '70s
right,
and make those jokes about the audience that never worked and always was confusing.
right.
Um, yeah, I guess ultimately, again, I'm glad they did it to some extent. Uh, I think it's great for a lesson for students because
Yeah,
I would actually say, like, the counter to Colin, because he's much more positive than my curmudgeonliness, is like, even that, I'm like, yeah, maybe you have the leeway of specifically Mod Night, which is almost only
mhm,
students.
mhm.
Can you move that? And not that everything needs to be for everywhere else, but like, know your room.
Yeah,
Like, when
no,
you're
yeah.
thinking,
Yeah, that's
like,
I think
that's it.
I
It
think know
can
your
work.
I think know your room is
yeah,
a big takeaway, and I
yeah.
think on SNL, this does, in theory, work, like,
Yeah.
but it might not work for any show. So, like, you just for every show. So, you
Yeah.
just need to be savvy about it. Okay, we're running a little over, so we should let's cruise on to the next one, but please, if you're watching this, like, leave some comments on the Substack post because I genuinely am so fascinated to hear people's thoughts on this. It was really, I don't think it's, like, setting off the end of SNL or anything, but I do think it was interesting, and it's very interesting to hear people's thoughts about it. Okay, so the next there were 2 more sketches.
Goo
The
Goo
Goo Goo
Man.
Man. Goo Goo
Goo
Man.
This
Goo Man.
one had a voice of reason character problem.
Yes, agreed. That was my
Classic
note.
I loved this idea, and then it fell apart because the voice of reason character was not saying anything at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that you have a problem when a few minutes in, your character is saying, "I don't understand what you're saying right now." Like, it's just like, "Roop," like, we are just your characters are literally not engaging, not talking to each other. I think the idea of the Goo Goo Man is really fun. I think that it was playing a little too coy with what the Goo Goo Man is, basically. I think that basically which is interesting because there's a way which thinking about this Goo Goo Man sketch and the Otezla sketch and the Almost Pizza sketch, you can kind of learn a little bit from, like, knitting from looking at those 3 together, a sketch that at its core has something that is not understood, and the different points of view around that. But I think this was just getting a little coy, and I think that it would be the voice of reason just took up way too much real estate in a sketch that like I don't know whether you see the Goo Goo Man or not. Like basically, I just want to learn more details about the Goo Goo Man and like probably at some point like see other people affected, like see the Goo Goo Man's presence be felt in more ways. But I think Koi is just where it
Yeah.
falls apart. Yeah.
I think it needs if the detail like if it's gonna be we're never gonna really tell you the Goo Goo Man, like the details need to be stronger, not get distracted by side jokes again. Guy who might die by pool. Oh wait, it's Keenan. That's the shit they do.
Right.
I think it needed Beck Bennett in the David S. Pumpkin sketch. Like I just
Mm-hmm.
like when he is just like, what exactly is going on? What are you doing? Is this
Right.
sexual? Is it this? Like if you're
There's a
gonna
little
do
bit
it,
of
do
that.
it.
But
That should have
But towards the
happened right
end,
away.
yeah,
yes, exactly.
it took
Yeah.
forever. Like they weren't letting the fun is actually gonna be the voice of reason, like in this sketch, like out of everything.
I'm gonna be
I
right
do,
back. I think
I
I might
do,
have.
yeah, do it.
We're good. We're good. We're good. Sorry, I thought I
Oh, great.
accidentally. Okay. Okay. We're good.
I will say I do love a bad sketch setup. Like, not really. Hotels don't usually sit there and list off what you
Right.
are paying. So I like
Right.
clunky setups like that because I know
I
they're
thought that was
shitty and
fun
sketchy,
too.
but I don't know. I those are the dumb things that make me laugh sometimes. But yeah, I don't know. Goo Goo Man needed like the voice of reason. Like it's
Yeah,
fun.
I think just plugging in that voice of reason way earlier, and then I loved the joke. Can you please give me your Google Rewards number? 3, done. That
Good
was
job.
great. I love that joke. Super, super funny. But that's like the flavor of thing that we just need to tease out more. It was also a very talky one. And I just think there could have been much more activating around it. Anything else for Goo Goo Man? Okay, great. Last but not least, we have this lies sketch, this Colin Joe sketch. Madeline, what was that? What's that reaction?
I love a Martin Hurley sketch now, and this was the first one I thought that really didn't work.
Yeah,
It wasn't specific enough what the lies were about.
yeah,
And then I don't care. This is like referencing your own show in a bad way. It's like, I don't think you making fun of your boss is as funny as you think it is.
yeah. I think so
Yeah.
too. I think it felt a little. This just felt a little self and kind of. So I think a little self-indulgent is the flip side to fun. And like in SNL, I think often the self-indulgent and fun are like it's like a really fine line between those two things. And I think there was just like a little too much in this
Yeah.
episode, and it all stepped on itself, kind of. So
Yeah.
it felt a little undisciplined or something.
I
Yeah.
think partly that I honestly have, I kind of stopped watching SNL a couple years ago, like after way too long of maybe way too long ago, and where I'd like watch a sketch here or there, like again, Cunningham would send me something and be like, what the hell is going on in this? And we
Mhm.
then break it down like we're in the teacher's lounge. But yeah, like I didn't realize, and maybe this is sometimes a good way to look at like the self-referential part. I was like, oh, are Martin Hurley sketches now? Like, is this a thing that they do? Because when it's the one, I was like, why am I watching the guy I
Right.
know from this? I'm not invested in him enough still. I'm still an old man, so I'm like, yeah, Tim Hurley, he was the best. But like, he also looks like Conan O'Brien, not Colin Jost. And
Right.
I was like, what is this joke? Like, and it
Right.
felt, and I also was like, is it supposed to be referential to like, Eddie Murphy as a white man sketch, like kind of the makeup sketch,
Mm.
like old SNL. Like it
Oh, that would
felt
have been
like a weird,
interesting.
but I was like,
Just
yeah, I don't know. It
yeah.
felt like it was referencing something again that I wasn't positive. I don't have
Right.
enough of a love for him to be like, great, I get a whole thing of him as our 10-to-1 sketch. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
I think that the lies bucket. I think you're right. There's something interesting about like what would it be like to be Colin Jost, like in that what I think that there's something really interesting in that. And I think that the lies overview just like wasn't maybe the most interesting way to like thing to combine with this.
Does he deliver usually in the kind of stuttered way? Is that part of the form of the
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. It's like this
Again,
kind of awkward sort of like yeah, the sort of this kind of awkward videos with like a lot of like freeze frames and text and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, this one I
yeah,
thought really it didn't it this it wouldn't feel quite sharp enough, I think.
no.
Um But yeah, I think that it was kind of a strange ending to the night. But that was it. That was all the sketches. Um, so yeah, I would say to me, like really a show that felt again like the things that I think people objected to in it maybe lean more towards depending on fun than depending on being funny. Which I think SNL can get away with often
Mhm.
and Ryan Gosling can get away with in many ways. But
Yeah,
I
you can.
still think even though it's so SNL specific in many ways, I do think there's still so many lessons to learn about the writing, and I think that the issues with the writing, um, it's really fun to explore them and sort of lay them out and 'cause I think there's just a ton of teachable moments even though SNL is doing things that kind of you only get to do on SNL or on a college sketch group, basically.
Yeah.
Um,
It is
yeah,
weird to always be like when I would especially when I was teaching more, would be like, "Oh, don't do this thing that the biggest sketch show
right,
that has ever existed and longest lasting is doing, but
right.
also you will not do it."
But I think that
So,
you were so right before that just, like, know your audience, know your
right.
room is the takeaway to have from that. So,
Yeah.
um, awesome. Okay, this has been so much fun to talk about. Jessica, I just saw your question, will you be doing discussions on SNL UK? That's a great question. Maybe. Maybe we should do that. Yeah, okay, Madeline, we'll talk about this afterwards. It sounds like fun. I'm very curious about it.
Multiple Taskmaster cast members. I mean,
It
I'm excited.
seems like fun.
What?
Yeah, there's
Um,
2 Taskmaster cast members in the UK cast. What's her name? I'm blanking. Yeah, from the later seasons, from Manzuka's season, from 20th season, Anna Magliano.
Oh, wow. This is exciting.
That's
Okay,
her name.
anyways.
Yeah, this is
well
for the Taskmaster talk we do later.
Well, yeah, exactly, for the next episode, right? But yeah, that sounds like fun. Thank you, Jessica, great suggestion. But yeah, before we go, anything that either of you guys would like to plug?
I do story coaching, so you can email me or reach out to me on Substack if you're interested.
Yay, awesome. Highly recommend. How about you, Jeff? Anything to plug?
Yeah, jeffgarlock.substack.com. Every week I write various things. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're other things. And then 108.9 The Hawk. It's my weekly improvised comedy podcast with Jason Gore about a failing classic rock radio station.
Fantastic.
And then go get my ambient record, Don't Die Today, on sfirecordings.com.
Yes, amazing. Yes, Jeff wears all the hats. And I will also say that Jeff, as I mentioned briefly at the top, Jeff wrote a truly beautiful Substack piece about submitting to Weekend Update and getting a joke on Weekend Update. And I really found it very like lovely and it's like funny and also very moving and poignant. And
Thank you
I
very
highly
much.
recommend taking a look at that. So yes,
I'm going to break down some of the jokes I didn't do
there we go. Yeah,
next week.
exactly. Perfect. Guys, thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Thank
I
you.
absolutely love talking about these sketches with you. It's so interesting to debrief, dissect all of that stuff. And I hope this is helpful for you if you're listening. My only plug is please, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a rating or review. Spread the word to your fellow sketch comedy nerds. Please comment on the post if you want to like chat about some sketch comedy stuff. And just know I'm so excited to share more of the book with you, all of you, and just to share more SNL conversations. So anyway, thank you guys again, and we will see you real soon. All right, bye guys.